You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. I walked in the door around 6, still half covered in sawdust from the site. I dropped my keys in the bowl and kicked off my boots, expecting the usual half-hearted smile or maybe a, "Hey." Instead, she didn't even glance up from her phone. "Hey," I said, wiping my hands on my jeans. "Thought maybe we could watch that new show tonight, the one you said looked good." She didn't look at me, just scrolled. I leaned against the wall, waiting. When she finally spoke, her voice was flat. "I'm not here to entertain you, you know." That hit harder than it should have. My chest tightened like I'd missed a step on the stairs. "That's not what I meant," I said. "Just figured we could spend a little time together, that's all." She sighed and got up from the couch like I'd just asked her to scrub the toilet. "I've had a long day, okay?" I nodded, but my hands were already back in my pockets. "All right." That was it. No hug, no kiss, no real look in my direction. She walked past me like I was a damn coat rack. Quick note, before we get too deep into this, share which city or country you're watching from. I stood there in the living room for another few seconds, staring at the back of her head as she disappeared into the bedroom. The place was quiet except for the dishwasher humming. I glanced around, couch cushions still dented from where she'd been, her wine glass on the side table, her hoodie draped over the armrest like she owned the silence. And I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to do with that. We weren't fighting, nothing had blown up, but something had shifted, and I could feel it in my bones. I just couldn't put a name to it. It was like being iced out without even knowing the rules had changed. I grabbed a water bottle from the fridge and stood at the kitchen counter, just listening. Still nothing. I wanted to walk into the bedroom, sit down beside her, and ask what was really going on. But I didn't. Something told me not to push. Instead, I grabbed my jacket and told her I was going for a drive. She didn't respond. I shut the door behind me, got in my truck, and just sat there for a minute. I felt like a fool, like I'd missed something huge and I didn't know when it even started. So I put the keys in the ignition and drove. Not anywhere in particular, just away from the silence. I pulled back into the driveway about an hour later. The lights were off except for the bedroom, and I could see the glow of her phone through the window. She was already in bed, curled up on her side, scrolling like nothing in the world outside that screen mattered. I didn't say a word. Just brushed my teeth, got in beside her, and stared at the ceiling. The next few days were quiet, not angry, just dry. She'd laugh at things on her phone, type with both thumbs like she was carrying on 10 conversations, but never looked up when I walked by. I tried asking her about work, her mom, even the damn neighbor's dog. She'd nod, say, "Yeah," or, "Mm-hmm," but her eyes stayed locked on that screen. By Thursday, I noticed she started dressing different, not in a dramatic way, just tighter jeans, little more makeup, spritz of perfume I hadn't smelled in a while. Always when she was heading out, never when we were just home. "Where are you headed?" I asked one evening. "Just drinks with Ashley," she said, grabbing her purse. "Girls' night." "Cool, you look good." She paused, barely a flicker of acknowledgement. "Thanks." Then she was out the door. I sat there on the couch, holding the remote, staring at the black TV screen for a second before flipping it on. Some cooking show was playing, loud and cheerful. I muted it. That weekend, I decided to try something. Cooked her favorite dinner, steak, mashed potatoes, asparagus. Even picked up that red she liked. Took me 2 hours. She came home halfway through, saw what I was doing, and raised an eyebrow. "You doing all this for something?" she asked. "No," I said. "Just wanted to do something nice, for us." She didn't say anything, just went to shower. We ate in silence. She picked at her plate, barely touched the wine. When I reached across the table, tried to take her hand, she flinched like I was catching her off guard. "You all right?" I asked. "Yeah, just tired." I nodded, swallowed it down with the wine. Later that night, I tried again. Reached for her under the covers, kissed her shoulder. She pulled away. "Not tonight." That was it. No warmth, no explanation. Just those 2 words. I stared at the ceiling again, and all I could think about was how long it had been since we'd actually touched. Not just sex, but even simple stuff. Her hand on my chest, brushing my hair out of my eyes, laughing into my neck. That stuff had vanished like it had never mattered. It didn't fall apart all at once. It was slow, like a leak you don't notice until the carpet's soaked. Still, I kept telling myself maybe it was stress, Maybe work was draining her. Maybe she was just going through something. I took her out to dinner the next weekend, got a reservation at the Italian place she used to love. She spent the whole meal with her phone next to the plate, lighting up every few minutes. I tried talking about vacations, asked if she wanted to plan something for fall. "Let's just see how things go," she said. "Things like what?" I asked. She looked at me like I'd asked something stupid. "Life, work, money." I nodded, stabbed a piece of ravioli, chewed it like rubber. I kept trying, flowers on a random Tuesday, offering to run errands for her, massaging her shoulders while she scrolled Instagram. Nothing landed. Every effort felt like tossing a match into wet wood. But I didn't stop. Not yet. Because the idea that she was just slipping through my fingers without a fight, that didn't sit right. I wanted to believe we could get back to the version of us that stayed up late eating junk food and laughing at dumb movies. That version that made inside jokes no one else got. But that version was starting to feel like someone else's memory. And the harder I tried to bring it back, the more I could see it in her face. She'd already moved on. I just hadn't caught up yet. Still, I stayed quiet, told myself to be patient, told myself this was just a rough patch. But every night, lying next to her in that silent bed, I started to wonder if I was just holding on for no damn reason. And wondering that was worse than hearing her say it out loud. A few nights later, I found myself nursing a beer at Miller's, sitting across from my buddy Travis. We'd been tight since high school. He was the kind of guy who didn't say much unless he meant it, which was exactly what I needed. He tipped back his bottle, then gave me a look. "You look like you haven't slept in a week." "Probably haven't," I muttered. "Work's been rough." "Bullshit," he said. "This ain't about work." I didn't respond right away, just stared at the condensation sliding down my bottle. He waited. "It's Emma," I finally said. "Something's off. I don't know. It's like we're roommates now." He nodded slowly. "When's the last time you two actually talked? Like, real conversation, not schedules or groceries?" That question stopped me. I thought back. Birthday dinner? No, that was mostly small talk. Weekend trip? That was 6 months ago, and even then she spent half the time on her phone. I cleared my throat. "I don't know. Been a while, I guess." Travis leaned forward. "Man, I've seen you tired before. I've seen you pissed off, broke, working weekends, you name it. But this? You look empty." I let that sit for a second. He wasn't wrong. I'd been walking around on autopilot, holding everything together like it was my job. "She shuts down every time I try to connect," I said. "I make dinner, she scrolls through her phone. I try to touch her, she pulls away. I ask what's wrong, she says nothing. You ever ask yourself why you're the only one trying?" I took a slow sip of my beer. "Every damn day," he shook his head. "That's not marriage, that's survival mode, and it's one-sided. I keep thinking it'll pass," I said. "Like, maybe she's just going through something and doesn't want to talk about it. But even when I back off, it doesn't help. Backing off and being invisible aren't the same thing." That hit harder than I expected. I stared at the label on the bottle like it held some kind of answer. "She used to light up when I walked in the door," I said, voice low. "Now I feel like an inconvenience, like if I vanished she wouldn't even notice." Travis looked straight at me. "You ever think maybe she already has?" That one landed right in my chest. I didn't answer. He leaned back. "Look, man, I'm not saying walk away, but you gotta stop bleeding yourself dry trying to fix something she ain't even trying to keep." I nodded, slow. The bar noise faded into background fuzz as his words sank in. "You think I'm being stupid?" I asked. "No," he said. "I think you're being loyal, but loyalty only matters when it goes both ways." That was the part that stuck. I finished my beer, tapped the empty bottle on the table. "It's hard, you know, when you've built a whole life with someone." "I know," he said, "but that life's only real if both of you are still in it." We didn't talk much after that, just sat in silence, letting the weight of it all settle between us. And on the way home, I kept hearing his voice over and over. "You ever ask yourself why you're the only one trying?" I got home that night and didn't say a word. No checking in, no asking if she ate, no lame attempt to start some fake conversation. She was sitting on the couch with her knees tucked under her, phone in hand, wine glass half full. She glanced up when I walked in, but I didn't look at her. Something in me had clicked. I didn't plan it. I didn't sit in the truck rehearsing a move. I just stopped. Stopped folding her laundry like I always did on Sundays. Left her stuff in the basket, wrinkled, piled up. Stopped making her coffee in the morning. Used to be muscle memory. Start the machine, add the creamer she liked, leave it on the counter for her. Not anymore. She didn't say anything. Just wandered into the kitchen that Monday, looked at the empty counter, and made it herself without a word. For the first couple days, it was like nothing changed for her. If anything, she seemed lighter, more space to do whatever the hell she wanted. I watched her from across the room, laughing into her phone, putting on makeup just to go to Target. She looked free. But I didn't feel small like I expected. I didn't feel rejected. I felt still. Like the fight had drained out of me, and I was okay just sitting with the silence for once. We moved around each other like strangers. I'd cook dinner and only make enough for me. She ordered takeout. I'd do laundry, leave her stuff untouched. We'd pass in the hallway with a nod or nothing at all. She didn't ask why, and that's what told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't confused, she wasn't worried. She was content, or at least pretending to be. Maybe she thought I finally gave up trying to pull her back into something she'd already checked out of. But this wasn't about giving up. It was about protecting whatever was left of me. Tuesday morning, she dropped her keys on the floor, and I didn't move. She looked down, picked them up herself, and walked out. That used to be me, quick to jump, eager to help, always trying to earn love that should have come freely. Now, I sat at the table drinking my coffee, letting the silence hang. By Friday, I noticed she started glancing at me a little longer, like she was trying to figure out if I was mad or if something had shifted that she didn't quite understand yet. But she never asked, and I wasn't offering answers. We shared a bed but didn't touch, shared a fridge but didn't eat together, shared a house but not a life. The weird part? I started to feel more like myself again. Not happy, not whole, but real. Like I wasn't putting on a show anymore, performing for someone who couldn't care less. One night, I saw her standing in the hallway, holding a basket of laundry. She looked at me like she was waiting for something. I just walked past her, didn't say a word. The silence was working its way under her skin, but she didn't know what to do with it yet. And I wasn't going to make it easy, not out of spite, out of self-respect. I wasn't about to beg again, wasn't going to ask how she felt or try to decode her cold shoulder. I had spent months living in that fog, guessing what version of her I'd come home to. Now she could wonder for a change. That Saturday, she came home with shopping bags, dumped them on the kitchen table, and said, "You didn't even notice I was gone, did you?" I looked at her, calm as ever. "You didn't say goodbye," she blinked. "So? You usually ask where I'm going." "Yeah," I said, turning back to the sink. "Used to." She didn't respond, just stood there, lips slightly parted, like she couldn't tell if we were in the middle of a fight or something worse. And that's when I knew she was starting to feel it. The silence wasn't a wall, it was a mirror, and she finally had to look into it. She slammed the fridge door hard enough to rattle the shelves. "There's no milk," she snapped. "No eggs, no bread. You couldn't have picked any of that up." I didn't look up from my coffee. "You went out yesterday." "Yeah, for clothes, not groceries." I shrugged. "All right." She stared at me like she was waiting for more, but I just sipped my drink and walked past her. That week, things started slipping. She forgot to feed the dog one morning. Poor guy was pacing by the empty bowl when I came down. I filled it, gave him a pat, and said nothing. Later that night, she saw the food gone and asked, "Did I already feed him?" I didn't answer, just turned the TV up a notch. Thursday, she left the garage light on all night and drained the battery in her car. I found her standing in the driveway the next morning, arms crossed, teeth clenched. "Car's dead," she said. I waited. "You gonna help, or just stand there?" I took a sip from my travel mug. "Thought you had it handled." Her eyes flared. "Are you serious? You always say you don't need me." She didn't say anything for a second, just looked down at the pavement, jaw tight. Then she walked back inside and slammed the door. That should have bothered me, but it didn't. I felt a weird calm, like I was watching her try to juggle a life she thought she could carry alone, and the cracks were starting to show. By Saturday, she was snapping more often, misplacing things, forgetting calls, leaving the laundry in the washer until it stank. I didn't correct her, didn't remind her, just let the mess build. She burned dinner that night, chicken, black on one side, still raw in the middle. I watched her toss the pan in the sink and storm off. A few minutes later, she came back into the living room where I was flipping channels. "You could have helped," she said, arms crossed. "You didn't ask. You saw me struggling." I looked at her, steady. "Didn't seem like you wanted my help." She opened her mouth like she was gonna fire something back, then closed it. Walked away again. She wasn't used to this version of me. The version that didn't rush in to save her. The version that watched her unravel without offering a net. And that's what this was. A slow unraveling. I could see it in her eyes now. The edge was gone. The confidence, the cold shoulder, the power. All of it was slipping. Monday morning, she forgot to set her alarm and missed a meeting. I didn't wake her, just left for work like usual. She texted me 2 hours later. "Thanks for letting me oversleep. Real nice of you." I didn't reply. A couple hours after that, she called. I let it ring. Then the second message came through. "I don't know what you're trying to prove, but it's petty as hell." Still, I said nothing. Because it wasn't petty. It wasn't a game. It was just finally letting her experience what she'd made normal for me, being left alone in a two-person life. And maybe for the first time, she didn't like the view from that side. She was slipping, just a little, but it was enough to show me she wasn't invincible. The whole "I don't need anyone" thing only worked when someone else was still doing the heavy lifting in the background. Now that I'd stepped back, she was realizing she might not be as independent as she'd convinced herself to be, and I wasn't about to step in and fix that illusion, not this time. I walked in the door and smelled garlic. That stopped me. There were candles on the table, real plates, napkins folded, wine poured. She was standing in the kitchen, wearing a soft sweater I hadn't seen in months, hair pulled back, no phone in sight. "Hey," she said, like nothing was weird. "I made pasta. Figured we could eat together for once." I set my keys down slow. "Okay." We sat. She scooped food onto my plate, then her own. I took a bite. It was good, but I didn't say anything. She waited until we were both halfway through before speaking again. "You've been quiet lately." I nodded, chewing. "Like, really quiet? You barely talk to me anymore." I sipped my wine, then looked at her. "You said you didn't want to be bothered." Her face twitched. "I never said that. You said you weren't here to entertain me. That was pretty clear. That was one comment. I didn't mean you made your point, so I gave you space." She leaned back in her chair. "So what? Now we're just ignoring each other forever?" I shrugged. "Seems like it's been working for you." She exhaled sharply. "That's not fair." "No?" I looked at her, calm. "Because I've been trying, for months. Dinners, conversations, checking in. You met all of it with silence or attitude. So now I'm quiet, and suddenly it's a problem." "I just wanted some breathing room," she said, eyes flashing. "Not a damn ghost." I smiled, small and flat. "Guess we both misunderstood what you wanted." She stared at me across the candles. "Why are you acting like this?" I wiped my mouth with a napkin. "Like what?" "Like none of this matters." I tilted my head. "Does it?" She flinched. "Wow, that's cold." I pushed my plate slightly forward. "No colder than what I've been living with." She crossed her arms. "So this is what we're doing now? You punishing me by pulling away?" "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I just stopped chasing." She looked like she didn't know whether to yell or cry. "You never said you were unhappy. Because when I did try to talk, you shut down. Or brushed me off. Or buried yourself in your phone." She blinked hard. "I didn't realize it got this bad." "No," I said. "You didn't care that it was." Silence stretched between us, the candles flickered, and the pasta went cold. I thought maybe we were in a rut," she said finally. "That it would pass." "Ruts don't last this long," I said, "and you didn't do anything to pull us out of it." "I thought you would." I shook my head. "Yeah, I know." She looked down at her lap, twisting the napkin in her fingers. "You don't even ask how I'm doing anymore." "Do you really want me to?" I asked. "Or do you just want me to make you feel better for letting go first?" That one landed. She didn't respond. "You want me to say I'm angry," I said. "You want to fight so it feels like I still care, but I'm not angry." "Then what are you?" I stared at her, dead on. "Done?" Her lip trembled for half a second, but she pulled it together. I didn't think you'd give up so easy. I didn't give up, I said. I held on longer than I should have. We both sat there, quiet. Nothing left to dress up or sugarcoat. She had been waiting for me to snap, to scream, to demand something, anything, but I didn't, because I wasn't in it anymore. She wanted a reaction that would prove I still cared, but all I had left was truth, and it didn't look anything like love. The next night, I stepped out back to take out the trash. The kitchen light was off, but I saw the soft glow of her phone through the bedroom window. Then I heard her voice, quiet, like she thought I wasn't around. I don't know. He's just so distant now, like he's already gone. She paused. My hand tightened on the trash bag. No, I didn't say anything about last week. I can't even look at him without feeling guilty. Another pause. But it's not just that. I was unhappy way before then. I stood still. The bag hit the ground without a sound. Her voice dropped lower, but the words came through. I don't think he even notices me anymore. Not like you do. That was the one that hit. Not like you do. The guy on the other end said something. I couldn't make it out, but the voice, it tugged at something familiar. Too familiar. I closed my eyes and tried to place it. Then it clicked. Logan. We used to work together, used to drink beer in my garage after shifts. He was at our wedding, toasted us like we were his favorite couple. I felt the blood drain from my face. She laughed, soft, quiet, almost shy. No, I didn't tell him. I can't. Not yet. Another beat of silence. I don't know. Maybe I'm just scared of what happens after. I don't want to be the bad guy. I backed away from the window, walked out to the trash bin, dropped the bag in slow, deliberate motion. The stars were out. Cold night. Quiet. My hands were shaking, but not from the chill. I didn't go back inside right away. I stood there for a while, listening to the world go still around me, wondering how long I'd been the fool in my own house. She hadn't just left emotionally, she handed the keys to someone else. Someone who used to shake my hand, call me bro, drink my beer like it meant something. I didn't say a word that night, didn't knock on the door, didn't ask who she was talking to. I just got in bed and faced the opposite wall. The next morning, she was already up when I came into the kitchen, coffee brewed, table set. Her face was calm, maybe too calm. I poured my own cup without looking at her. You working late tonight? She asked. Probably. She nodded, like everything was normal. I watched her move around the kitchen, casual, collected, almost relaxed. Like she had made peace with the double life she was living, like she believed I was too dull or blind to notice. But I noticed. I saw it now in every move she made, every shift in tone, every time her phone lit up and she tilted it away from me, every unexplained errand, every evening catch-up with a friend she never named. She thought I was checked out. She thought I didn't care enough to dig deeper. And maybe she was half right, because at that point, I wasn't looking for an explanation. I wasn't even angry, not the way I expected to be. I just felt finished. The version of me that would have kicked in that door and demanded answers, he was gone. Now I just wanted distance, peace, silence, anything but the slow suffocation I'd been living through. She walked past me, brushing her hand across my back like it meant something. I didn't react. I let her keep pretending, let her keep planning, let her think I was still asleep at the wheel. But inside, I was putting the pieces together, and every piece pointed to the same ugly truth. This wasn't just emotional anymore. It hadn't been for a while. After that night, I went quiet, fully, completely quiet. Not the cold shoulder kind, not pouting or stonewalling, just done. If she asked a question, I'd give a nod, maybe a grunt, no follow-ups, no eye contact. She started to notice by day 3. You didn't answer me, she said one morning, standing in the doorway while I put on my boots. I tied the laces and stood up. I asked if you wanted dinner tonight, she said, sharper. Whatever, I muttered, brushing past her. She followed me halfway to the kitchen. Seriously? That's it? I grabbed my thermos and keys, didn't look at her. Is this some kind of game now? She snapped. Is this how we're doing things? I walked out the door and let it close behind me. At work, I felt lighter, like I could breathe again. I wasn't obsessing over how to fix something that didn't want fixing. I wasn't waiting for affection that was already being handed out to someone else. At home, I became a shadow. Ate dinner alone, watched TV alone, slept facing the wall. If she talked, I didn't engage. If she hovered, I didn't bite. And at first, she kept her cool. Gave off that fake calm she was good at. But it didn't last. A week in, I came home to find her pacing the living room, arms folded, jaw tight. "You ignoring me now?" she said. "Is that what we're doing?" I set my stuff down, kicked off my boots, and walked past her. "I asked you a question." I opened the fridge, poured a glass of water. She stepped in front of me. "Are you seeing someone?" I raised an eyebrow. "Because if you are, just say it," she snapped. "Don't act like you're better than me." I took a sip of water, then set the glass down. "You cheated first," I said, flat. "Emotionally or otherwise. You can figure out the line." She looked stunned for half a second, then angry. "That's not true." "I heard you," I said. "On the phone, Logan." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I walked past her, sat down on the couch, and turned on the game. "You been talking to Logan?" she asked, voice cracking. "No," I said. "Just listened." She stood in the doorway, hands shaking now. "I didn't mean for it to." "I don't care what you meant," I said, without looking at her. "I'm done carrying it." "You're not even angry," she shouted. "You don't get to act like this doesn't hurt you." I turned the volume up on the TV. "You're not the center of my world anymore. That's what's hurting you." She was crying now, quiet at first, then full-on sobbing. But I didn't flinch. I let her fall apart in the space she used to own, the space I used to protect. She wanted to be independent. She got it. She wanted space. Here it was, and now she didn't like it. The more distant I got, the more desperate she became, asking where I was going, who I was with, what I was thinking. I gave her nothing, because by then, there was nothing left to give. She used to make me feel invisible. Now she was the one shouting into the void. And I didn't owe her an echo. 2 days after her breakdown in the living room, she came into the kitchen with a brochure in her hand. "Look," she said, trying to sound casual. "There's this cabin near Asheville. 2 nights, no phones, just us. Might be good to reset." I looked at the paper, picture-perfect trees, a hot tub on the deck, smiling couple in hiking boots. "Reconnect," she added, like she was selling it to herself more than me. I nodded. "Sure." She blinked, surprised. Probably expected me to fight. I didn't. I just said yes. The next morning, I took a detour on the way to work, walked into a small print shop and asked them to run off 2 copies of the separation paperwork I'd been staring at on my laptop for the past week. It didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like exhaling after holding my breath for too long. Friday came fast. She packed for both of us, humming under her breath, like she believed this was the turning point, like a weekend in the woods could undo a year of slow decay. I let her believe it. We didn't talk much during the drive. She tried to fill the silence with music, then questions about the trails, the hot tub, what snacks to stop for. I gave short answers, eyes on the road. By the time we pulled up to the cabin, the sun was low and the air smelled like pine. Inside, it was cozy. Fireplace, soft lighting, little welcome basket by the sink. She smiled as she unpacked. "This place is nice, huh?" "Yeah," I said. "It is." I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope, walked over to her and set it on the table. "What's that?" she asked, looking up. "Separation papers." She blinked. "What?" "I'm not staying the weekend," I said. "I'm driving to Boone. I've got a place booked." She stared at the envelope like it might explode. "Wait, what are you talking about?" "I needed a quiet space to think. This is it." She shook her head. No, you said yes. You agreed to come." "I did," I said. "I agreed to end it where it started." Face-to-face tears welled instantly. "You can't just do this. We're trying. This was supposed to be a chance." "You're trying now," I said. "After months of pushing me out, after Logan." Her face flushed. "I told you. Nothing happened." I met her eyes. "You said you didn't want to be the bad guy. That's what you were worried about. Not me, not us." She opened the envelope with shaky hands. "You don't mean this. You're just angry." I meant it the second I stopped begging. She sank into a chair, quiet for a minute. "So, that's it? You're just walking away?" I didn't answer. I picked up my keys and my bag. "Say something," she said, almost whispering. "Tell me why." "I already did," I said. "You just didn't hear it when it mattered." I stepped out into the cool air. The woods were dead silent. No birds, no cars. Just the sound of my boots on gravel as I walked to the truck. I didn't look back. The drive to Boone was quiet. I checked into the motel, tossed my bag on the bed, and sat down with a takeout sandwich and a cold beer. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't sad. It was peaceful. I walked around the town the next day, bought a coffee from some small shop, sat on a bench near the edge of a lake. I didn't think about her. I didn't replay the fight. I didn't check my phone. I just sat there and breathed like I hadn't in months. She could cry. She could beg. She could unpack that weekend on her own. That was her burden now. Mine was gone. I pulled into the driveway Sunday night just after dark. Porch light was on. House looked the same from the outside. Quiet. Still. I walked in and knew right away. She was gone. The front closet door hung open and her jackets were missing. Her mug wasn't in the dish rack like usual. The throw blanket she always left on the couch was gone too. I stood in the doorway for a second, keys still in hand. The house didn't feel broken, just empty. There was a note on the counter, folded once, her name written in the corner like she expected me to keep it. I didn't think it would really end like this. I miss the way things used to feel. I miss the routines. I'm sorry. That was it. No call, no tears, just a handwritten apology, 2 days too late. I left the note where it was and walked through the house slowly, flipping on lights as I moved. Her side of the closet cleared out. Bathroom drawers half full now. I opened the fridge and saw the leftovers from before the cabin still sitting there. Even the dog looked confused. I sat on the edge of the bed that night and felt the weight lift. Not because I didn't care, but because I'd carried it long enough. She was gone, and for the first time, I didn't feel like chasing anyone. I woke up Monday to silence and sunlight. No tension in the air, no small talk laced with bitterness, just me. There was peace in that. Did it still hurt? Yeah, of course it did. You don't spend years building something with someone and walk away without scars. But I wasn't bleeding anymore. I packed up the rest of her things over the next couple days. No music, no distractions. Just folded everything up neat, boxed it, and left it by the door. She could pick it up or not. Didn't matter to me. The last thing I did was take one slow walk through the house. Bedroom, hallway, living room. All of it felt lighter, cleaner, honest. I looked at my reflection in the window and barely recognized the guy staring back. And that was the point. He didn't exist anymore.